I was sitting there in that stiff government-issued swivel chair, the one with the squeaky wheel and worn armrest I'd dealt with for 7 years, when Mark slid a manila folder across his polished oak desk. Same rehearsed look as always. Half shrug, half pity. I didn't need to open it, I already knew. Rejection number 12. 12 times I'd been passed over for regional director, and I already knew who got it this time. Alana. She'd been here less than a year. 10 months, tops. Listen, Noelle, Mark said, leaning in like we were old friends sharing a secret. The end of fiscal year isn't ideal for leadership changes, but I've put your name forward for our summer cycle. You're right there. I nodded like I believed him, like I hadn't heard that nearly word for word for the last 4 years, like I hadn't onboarded every single person who'd leapfrogged me since 2017. Then it happened. I laughed. Not a polite chuckle, the kind of laugh that echoes, the kind that says, I've hit my limit. Mark blinked. His default empathy mode froze mid. Something funny? Yeah, I said, still laughing. Me. For thinking this place would ever stop pretending. That was it? That was the moment it all shifted? Oh right, I'm Noelle. I was 36 when this happened, working at a regional logistics hub in Raleigh, North Carolina. 7 years of solving emergencies, saving accounts, training people who became my boss. 7 years of being called essential, just never eligible. Before we go on, please like this video, subscribe, and drop a comment if you've ever been quietly passed over while carrying the weight of the place. You are not alone. And what happened next? Let's just say, Raleigh wasn't ready for my next move. Regional Director. The title that should have been mine nearly 4 years ago. Let me back up. TriPoint Logistics was started by 3 former supply chain execs who bailed on a Fortune 100 to redefine logistics with heart. They had this whole, we're lean, we're a family, we hustle together mantra. Mark was employee number 5. I came in as employee 22, back when they operated out of a rented suite behind a strip mall in Garner. I rebuilt half their tracking dashboards from scratch. I salvaged the Portwell account when our team lead quit in the middle of deployment. I clocked 60-hour weeks like it was a badge of honor. I over-delivered. Every single time. But the promotions, always just out of reach. And they didn't just skip me, they explained it. You need stronger cross-team visibility. So I led joint projects. You should mentor more junior staff. So I did. Get fluent in our new TMS system. So I got certified. Every time I met the goal, they'd shift the goalposts. Meanwhile, the promotions kept falling into other people's laps. Brian, who couldn't meet a deadline to save his life, but played pickleball with Mark. Daniela, who leaned on me for every dashboard, but went to wine nights with the VP. And now Alana, whose standout skills seemed to be sharing a sorority with our COO. I used to think it was me. Not extroverted enough? Too blunt? Wrong vibe? Wrong history? But that day, watching Alana strut by with her engraved nameplate, I finally understood. It wasn't me. It was the game. And it was rigged. That night, I collapsed in the hallway, still in my coat. Cried like it cracked something inside. Then I called my sister Lauren. She listened, patiently. Then she said, Wait, I can't just quit, I told her. 7 years. That's sunk cost, Noelle. Stop giving them your best. And that was the moment something in me snapped away. Stop caring. Stop trying to earn the approval of people who've already decided you don't matter. I sat in silence, holding the phone against my cheek. That's not who I am, I finally whispered. Maybe, Lauren said. It's who you need to become. I didn't sleep that night. Her words looped in my head like static. 7 years. 7 years of showing up, proving myself, holding the line. And for what? For a pat on the head and a promise that never came? Something in me stiffened, hardened. A plan started to bloom in the back of my mind. Because here's the thing. I knew how TriPoint Logistics actually ran, not the version they presented to investors or flaunted at recruitment fairs. I knew which contracts were hanging by a thread. I knew which teams were behind, which reports were faked, and which clients only stayed because I personally kept them calm. Despite being passed over a dozen times, I was the infrastructure behind at least 5 key accounts. Without me, the entire Mid-Atlantic operation would wobble. So the next morning, I put on my blazer, walked in like usual, smiled at Mark in the hallway, nodded at Alana with all the right congratulations. Then I sat at my desk and started documenting everything. Every reporting system I built, every process shortcut, every call I'd handled at midnight, I compiled it all into a private digital vault off the company server. My asset, not theirs. Then I drafted what I called my indispensability map. Every connection, every operational weak point tied to me, not pry point. It may sound strategic, maybe cold, and honestly, it was. That's what 12 rejections will do. They don't just bruise you, they sharpen you. I gave myself 6 months not to quit quietly, but to exit on my terms. And phase 1, become absolutely irreplaceable. If you've ever been underestimated while holding everything together behind the scenes, you'll want to hear what happened next. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the moment I stopped asking for permission and started rewriting the rules. I volunteered for every chaotic client fire. I became the person they called when systems crashed or tempers flared. When our largest account, Riverspan Logistics, hit a snag, they didn't go through official channels. It called me directly. Not TriPoint's help desk, not their assigned liaison. But I was strategic. I didn't sabotage anything. I didn't create dependencies that weren't already there. I just became the solution. And I kept documenting it all. That was phase 2. My escape hatch. I started meeting old coworkers for coffee, people who'd jumped to startups, venture-backed firms, even niche consultancies. I refreshed my portfolio, not a resume, because I wasn't job hunting. I was architecting something new. Phase 3 was the hardest, emotional detachment. I stopped flinching when Mark took credit for my strategy decks. I no longer cared when I wasn't invited to leadership alignment lunches. I stopped viewing TriPoint as the company I owed loyalty to and started seeing it as a temporary tool, a bridge to something better. Then, in month 4, it happened again. Promotion number 13. This time to Kyle. 2 years at TriPoint. No standout contributions, but loud, confident, and very good at echoing leadership buzzwords. Old me would have broken. New me, I just smiled. Congrats, Kyle, I said, and meant none of it. Mark kept waiting for me to knock on his door, to ask, what do I need to improve? But I never came. By month 5, I'd built a financial cushion, incorporated Langston's strategy group, quietly secured a business line of credit, and I began discreet, non-committal conversations with 2 TriPoint clients who'd been venting frustrations for months. I wasn't stealing, I was simply available. Outful. Human. Then came the day, 6 months to the date of rejection number 12. I walked into Mark's office. No calendar invite. Just a printed letter. I'm resigning, I said, placing it gently on his desk. His face morphed in seconds. Shock, denial, panic. And finally, the look I'd waited years to see. Wait, Noel, you can't just quit, Mark stammered. You're leading the Meridian freight transition, and we're in the middle of the Riverspan integration. I smiled calmly. My 2 weeks' notice is in the letter, everything's outlined. He scanned the page like he could will it to say something else. Is this about the promotion? Because listen, we're heading into Q3. I've been pushing for your name to be. No, Mark, I said, cutting him off. This isn't a negotiation. I'm leaving. And now, this is where it gets good. This is where 6 months of deliberate strategic preparation start to pay off, where they finally begin to understand exactly what they're about to lose. But let me be honest with you, even now, 2 years later, telling this part still makes my chest tighten. Because I remember the fear. I remember nearly backing down, almost talking myself into one more round of being overlooked, just to avoid the unknown. But I didn't. And if you want to know what came next, how my exit didn't just shake them, it shattered them, stick around. Because that resignation, it was just the spark. What followed? Chaos. Mark called a last-minute leadership huddle, which of course I wasn't invited to. He told them, "Noella's been great, but we've got systems in place. We'll manage." Oh, how wrong he was. Turns out I was the system. Every late-night fix, every manual process I'd optimized, every shortcut workaround, band-aid holding their operation together, that was me. By day 3 of my notice, the panic hit. Mark started scheduling daily knowledge transfers, asked me to build training materials, wanted everything I knew downloaded. Only problem? There is no replacement. Sure, I said, sweet as syrup. My consulting rate is $275.00 an hour. The look on his face, like I'd just asked for his mortgage. You still work here? He sputtered. For 11 more days, I corrected him, calmly. Mark grumbled to the partners naturally, but by then they were already spinning, because Riverspan, our biggest client, had caught wind of my exit. Their CIO, Lorraine Donnelly, called TriPoint CEO directly. I only knew because his assistant, Ren, told me over lunch. She leaned in, whispering, "Lorraine said," and I quote, "If Noelle's not on our account, we need to revisit our agreement." Bren chuckled nervously. I've never seen Graham sweat like that. By the end of week 1, the first offer came in. Mark called me into his office. This time, Graham, the CEO, was seated beside him, his expression serious. "We've been reevaluating your contributions," Graham said, like this was a revelation and not something I'd been shouting into a void for 7 years. "We'd like to offer you the regional director role effective immediately, with a 15% raise." I almost laughed. The title I'd been chasing for years, suddenly available now that I was walking out the door? "I appreciate it," I said, measured, "but I've already committed to another path." Their faces froze, like it had never occurred to them that I might have options outside TriPoint. "What would it take?" Graham asked. "We can stretch to a 20% raise." "It's not about the money," I replied. And that was true. Partly. Sure, I'd been underpaid, but it wasn't just that. It was about dignity. About not waking up one more day in a place that had told me 12 times I wasn't worth advancing. By week 2, desperation showed. The Meridian project was falling apart. Custom dashboards were failing, clients were calling, asking for me by name. Then came offer 2. Senior VP, 30% raise, leadership access. Choose your projects. I said no again. "You're being unreasonable," Mark snapped, the fake smile long gone. "We're trying to make this right." 7 years, Mark," I said quietly. "You had 7 years to make it right." On day 10, Graham came to my desk himself. Dark circles under his eyes, voice hoarse. "Name your price, director level, full autonomy, remote, anything." And for a second I did hesitate. It was more than I ever thought I'd be offered there. But then I remembered, 13 times overlooked. And no offer could undo that. 13 times they told me I wasn't quite ready. 13 times I watched someone with fewer qualifications walk away with the title I'd earned. "I'm sorry," I said to Graham that day, "but my decision's final." And on my last day, I did something that even surprised me. As I was professional, I handed over everything they asked for: client documentation, project summaries, transition notes. I didn't slam doors, I didn't sabotage a single file. I just left. As I walked out of TriPoint's lobby carrying my little cardboard box, half-wilted desk plant, coffee mug with a chip on the handle, Mark intercepted me near the glass doors. "You're making a mistake," he said flatly. "You won't last 6 months out there." I just smiled. "Watch me." And that's when the story really changed. Because my revenge wasn't the resignation. It wasn't the panic I left in my wake, though yes, that was satisfying. My revenge was what came next. Remember those 2 frustrated clients I mentioned, the ones I'd been quietly meeting? The day after I left TriPoint, I met with both, this time as the founder and CEO of my own firm, Northline Strategies. 1 week later, Riverspan terminated their TriPoint contract and signed with me. Entire portfolio, not just the failing implementation, everything. When Graham found out, he called me. "This is a breach of your non-compete," he yelled. "Actually, it's not," I replied, calm as ever. "I never signed one, you should check your files." Silence. He knew I was right. 7 years of paperwork, and they'd never bothered with a non-compete. Their oversight was now my launchpad. 3 weeks later, Meridian Freight followed. Their COO told me TriPoint offered to slash their rates by 40%. They still walked. By month 3, I had 5 clients, 3 from TriPoint, 2 new from referrals. I was making 3 times my old salary. I hired my first employee, Tanya, a sharp, underappreciated analyst from a rival firm. I set boundaries, charged my worth, built smart, efficient systems that didn't need endless patchwork. Then came the surprise. Month 5. A message on LinkedIn. "Kirsten, number 13. Can we grab coffee?" she asked. Over lattes, she stirred nervously. "I'm miserable," she whispered. "Everything's falling apart over there." "Nobody knows what they're doing," she added. "The Riverspan account is a disaster. Mark's blaming everyone but himself." I nodded. None of it surprised me. "They talk about you like a ghost," she said. "Graham even banned your name from meetings. But then he asks, 'How did Noel handle this?'" There was a smug thrill hearing that, but also sadness. Sadness for the people still stuck there. Sadness for the 7 years I'd spent chasing validation that never came. "So, why are you telling me this?" I asked. She looked up. "I want to work for you." I nearly choked on my coffee. "Wait, what?" "I know it's strange, but you've built something real, with people who respect you. That's what I want." I studied her face. No agenda, just someone exhausted, someone who wanted to be seen. "Send me your resume," I said. "We'll talk." 6 months to the day after I left TriPoint, my phone rang. "Noel, it's Graham," came the voice. "We're struggling. Q3 numbers are the worst in 5 years. 7 clients gone. We want you back," he said. "We'll match your salary, double it, director title, equity." This was the moment I'd imagined, validation. But I didn't want it anymore. "I'm sorry, Graham," I said, "but I've moved on." I hung up, sat at my real desk, in my own office, with Northline Strategies on the glass. And I cried, not in anger, but in relief. 7 years of invisible weight, finally gone. Today, Northline has 17 employees. We've doubled revenue 2 years straight. We protect our people. We choose clients who value us. Kirsten now leads client services, brilliant outside that toxic system. Tanya runs analytics. Ran, Graham's former assistant? She's our operations manager. TriPoint still exists, barely. They've downsized. Mark was let go. Graham reached out again 6 months ago, this time with a merger proposal. I declined, politely, because the real revenge was never needing their approval again. Those 13 rejections weren't failures. They were redirections. So if you're feeling stuck or unseen, please hear this. You don't have to keep auditioning for people who already decided not to cast you. Sometimes, the most powerful move isn't fighting back. It's walking away. If this story resonated, please like and subscribe. Drop a comment if you've ever had to walk away to find your worth. I read them all, and your stories made me feel less alone in mine. Remember, your value was never up for debate. See you in the next video.